Hello everyone, welcome to Psychology and your first audiovisual lecture. I am Professor Zeeb. So basically what we're going to do here is just a quick rundown of the history of psychology. So I'm just going to give you the foundation for the field. So in looking at the historical background of psychology, we can actually trace the beginning of psychology all the way back to the ancient Greeks. In fact, the word psychology comes from the Greek language. Psyche, meaning soul or mind. Logos, meaning the study of. So obviously, if you put that together, it is the study of the soul or mind. So in other words, what we are saying is the ancient Greeks started the ball rolling in terms of psychology. We're going to find that it had its basis in philosophy, where ancient Greek philosophers would sit around and debate the essence of the human mind or soul. So the very roots can be traced back to philosophical backgrounds. However, where we're going to pick it up here in our class is the late 1800s, where it became the scientific study of the mind. So in other words, not until the late 1800s did scientists start using the scientific method to explore these principles. In other words, psychology for the very first time was studied in a laboratory using formal experiments and the principles of science drawn from the scientific method. So psychology did not become a science until the late 1800s. Then around 1920 or so, going into the mid-century, the mid-1900s, it became the scientific study of behavior. So thus the field expanded. In other words, rather than focusing on the mind or conscious experience, psychologists started turning to the behavior of humans. In other words, why do humans do what they do? How do we learn? Those types of concepts. So this was often drawn from animal research, for example. But the point is that the field became much broader as a result of this turning of events. That leads us to present day. So the way we define psychology today is much more broad, even from the mid-century. And so our technical definition here, it is the systematic study of behavior and experience. So I want you to take for a moment to really fathom what that basically means. If we're studying all behavior, human experience, that encompasses many, many different things, many interesting things. For example, this would include things like dreaming, consciousness, sexual issues. The point is that it's much more broad and we cover a lot of different things, a lot of interesting fields that other fields do not cover. So it's kind of an interesting area to be in research because we do cover a lot of abstract and interesting topics. Okay, so that's really your general rundown of the background, historical background of psychology, and please progress to the next lecture.